put you in front of my melody. You are all that matters. You are all that matters. I'll make room for two. You and I, Jesus. You are all that matters. You are all that matters. Always, you are all that matters. Always, you are all that matters. Always, you are all that matters. What would I live for if I don't have you in my life? What would I gain if you take the Holy Ghost? What would have become of me if I didn't see your light? What would have been said of me if you didn't hold my hand? And now I've come to realize that you are all I have. You are all that matters. You are all that matters. I'll put you in front of my melody. You are all that matters. You are all that matters. I'll make room for two. You and I, Jesus. You are all that matters. You are all that matters. Is it the car? Is it the house? I'll give them all to you. Is it the name? Is it the fame? I'm nothing without you, Lord. What would have become of me if I didn't see your light? What would have been said of me if you didn't hold my hand? And now I've come to realize that you are all I have. You are all that matters. You are all that matters. Always, always. 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 You are all that matters. You are all that matters. You are all that matters. You are all that matters, Jesus. Only you.
It is my pleasure to welcome us all to the 66th inaugural lecture of this great citadel of learning, the Federal University of Agriculture, Abeokuta. Ladies and gentlemen, please, as soon as the academic procession files in, would all be required to stand and remain standing as a mark of honor. Ladies and gentlemen, the academic procession is already in the auditorium, so please may we all rise. The inaugural lecture of this great citadel of learning is Food Demand Decisions, not only the numerics, but the characteristics. And it will be delivered by Professor Adewale Oladapo DIPEOLU, a professor of agricultural production and economics. Professor DIPEOLU is of the Department of Agricultural Economics and Farm Management, College of Agricultural Management and Rural Development, Kolam Road. Professor DIPEOLU is the immediate past dean of the College of Agricultural Management and Rural Development, a professor of teacher of teachers. Professor DIPEOLU has as his current dean, Professor Emmanuel Fakoya, and his HOD is Professor Idris Ayinde. We recognize dignitaries and eminent personalities here present with us this afternoon from different facets of life. We say a very big welcome to you all. Thank you for sharing in our joy. Thank you for your presence in this very special occasion. We recognize members of the academic profession, deans, directors, professors, and all academic staff. We also recognize all members of staff of this great citadel of learning. It might interest you to know that the Vice Chancellor of this great citadel of learning is no other than Professor Kolawole Salako. We have as our Deputy Vice Chancellor, Academic, Professor Bolanle Akeredoluale. We also have as our Deputy Vice Chancellor, Development, Professor Clement Adelfun. The registrar of this great citadel of learning is no other than Dr. Bola Adekola. We have as our bossa, Mr. Chukwueke Ezekpiazu. And as the university librarian, Dr. Feintola Onifade. Ladies and gentlemen, as I announced earlier, the dean of the inaugural lecturer is Professor Emmanuel Fakoya, and he has as his HOD, Professor Idris Ayinde. Of course, we all know that we are all gathered here for the 66th inaugural lecturer, who is our very own Uncle Wale, Professor Adewale DIPEOLU. Ladies and gentlemen, let's remain standing as the academic procession files in. The title of our inaugural lecture this afternoon is Food Demand Decisions, not only the numerics, but the characteristics. We recognize eminent personalities here from all walks of life. We recognize your presence and appreciate you here in our midst. I would have asked that I give the introduction, but someone is coming who is greater than I that would give the introduction, the due introduction. And that is in the person of the Vice Chancellor. Like I said earlier, we have as a Vice Chancellor, Professor Kolawole Salako, FSSN. And as the Deputy Vice Chancellor, we have Deputy Vice Chancellor Academic, Professor Bolanle Akeredoluale. The Deputy Vice Chancellor Development is Professor Clement Adeofun. We also have as our registrar, Dr. Bola Adekola. The bossa of this great citadel of learning is Mr. Chukwueke Ezekpiazu. The university librarian is Dr. Feintola Onifade. We recognize all deans and directors here present, all academic staff on the procession. We thank you for your presence here this afternoon. Ladies and gentlemen, we thank you for your patience. as soon as the academic procession files in, would commence the activities of this program in earnest. We recognize all our eminent personalities, our dignitaries from all walks of life. Here present, we recognize all our deans from the various colleges of this great citadel of learning. We recognize and welcome very warmly principal officers of this university. The Dean of the College of Agricultural Management and Rural Development is no other than Professor Emmanuel Fakoya. The inaugural lecturer has as his HOD, Professor Idris Ainde. We recognize the presence of the Vice Chancellor of this great citadel of learning, Professor Kolawole Salako. We also recognize and welcome very specially the Deputy Vice Chancellor, Academic, Professor Bolanle Akeredoluale. The Deputy Vice Chancellor, Development, I understand that the Deputy Vice Chancellor Academic is wearing 2 hats this afternoon. She will be representing the Vice Chancellor at this occasion. Ma, you're highly recognized. We have as the Deputy Vice Chancellor Development, Professor Clement Adeofu. We also have as our Registrar, Dr. Bola Adekola. The bossa is Mr. Chukwuike Ezekiazu. We have as our university librarian, Dr. Feintola Onifade. And of course, as our inaugural lecturer, the 66th inaugural lecturer of this great citadel of learning, Professor Adewale DIPEOLU. The inaugural lecturer is already here in our midst, and he will be dissecting the lecture titled Food Demand Decisions, not only the numerics, but the characteristics. Ladies and gentlemen, may we remain standing as we take the national anthem to be followed by the FUNAAB anthem. the FUNAAB anthem. Thank you very much. May we all be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to welcome us all once again to the 66th inaugural lecture of this great citadel of learning. The lecture titled Food Demand Decisions. Not only the numerics, but the characteristics will be delivered by Professor Adewale Oladapo DIPEOLU, a professor of agricultural production and economics. Professor DIPEOLU is of the Department of Agricultural Economics and Farm Management, College of Agricultural Management and Rural Development. May I now invite the Vice Chancellor, who is ably represented by the Deputy Vice Chancellor, Academic, Professor Bolanle Akeredoluwale, for her introductory remarks. The Vice Chancellor, ma.
Deputy Vice Chancellor Development, the Registrar, the Bossa, the University Librarian, Dean College of Agricultural Management and Rural Development, Dean of other colleges, Directors of Centers and Services, Head Department of Agricultural Economics and Farm Management, heads of departments that are here, members of the DIPEOLU family, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, gentlemen of the print and electronic media, great FUNAABers. I brought felicitation and greetings from the Vice Chancellor of this university, Professor Felix Kolawole Salako, who is unavoidably absent at this occasion. He would have loved to be here with us, but he has had to be in Abuja for other university assignments. And I read his speech, introduction of the lecturer, the inaugural lecturer of today. I have the honor of asking Professor Adewale Oladapo DIPEOLU to stand up for this introduction. It is my pleasure to welcome you all to the 66th edition in the series of inaugural lectures of the Federal University of Agriculture, Abeokuta, Nigeria. The inaugural lecturer of today, Professor Adewale Oladapo DIPEOLU, was born on the 9th December 1956 in Lagos, Lagos State, to the family of late Jonathan Olusegun DIPEOLU and late Claudiana Ashabi DIPEOLU. Professor DIPEOLU attended Staff School, University of Ibadan for his primary school education from 1963 to 1967, and Government College Ibadan in Ibadan for the secondary education from 1968 to 1972. He had a brief stint at the Comprehensive High School, Ayetoro, from October 1973 to June 1974. He graduated with a Bachelor of Social Sciences in Economics in 1979. In 1981, he was admitted to the Department of Economics at the University of Ibadan and obtained the MSc Economics in 1982. In the year 2000, he obtained a PhD in Agricultural Economics, also from the University of Ibadan. In 2019, he was made a fellow of the Farm Association of Nigeria. Professor DIPEOLU served as a secondary school teacher during his youth service year from 1979 to 1980 at the Colliery Comprehensive High School, Enugu, Nkwo, Anambra State, now Enugu State, where he taught English, language, economics, and additional mathematics. In October 1980, he was employed by the Ogun State Civil Service Commission as Administrative Officer Grade 7. In the period of 1 year in the civil service, he was Assistant Secretary, Foreign Exchange in the Ministry of Finance for a few months. He was later posted to the Governor's Office as Secretary, Task Force on Industries under late T.A. and simultaneously Secretary of Division Task Force, of being Secretary to the delegation to the Milan Trade Fair in Italy in 1980, led by the late Chief Sheson Sholuade, then the Deputy Governor of Ogun State. The service of Ogun State Civil Service in economics, which he later abandoned when he joined the services of the Federal University of Technology in March 1984. As an assistant lecturer in the Department of Natural Resources Management in the School of Industrial Management, he rose through the ranks in the many phases of the development of the university to become a professor of agricultural production economics in June 2009. He served as acting director, FUNAAB consult from 2001 to 2006, acting program leader, IFSERA in 2010, head of Department of Agricultural Economics and Farm Management from April 2010 to March 2014. Director, Center for Entrepreneurial Studies from April 2015 to November 2017. And Dean, College of Agricultural Management and Rural Development from November 2017 to November 2020. While on sabbatical at the Bells University in Otta, he designed the curriculum for the College of Management Sciences and was the foundation acting dean of the college from May 2007 to September 2008. In addition, Professor DIPEOLU has served the university in various capacities, amongst which are congregation representative on University Council, Governing Council, congregation representative on Senate, member, Certificate Verification Committee, member, Admissions Committee. He has also served in numerous standing and ad hoc committees in the university. Professor DIPEOLU's main area of research is production economics, but has moved in recent times to consumer and food economics. He has contributed 97 publications in journals, technical reports and monographs, books and chapters in books to learning in his field. As a lecturer, he teaches a wide variety of courses at the undergraduate and postgraduate levels in the College of Agricultural Management and Rural Development, Department of Nutrition and Dietetics, Department of Home Science and Management, and is also involved in teaching at CADES. He has supervised over 300 undergraduate students, over 38 students at Agric, and over 40 students in the MBA Agribusiness program. At the PhD level, Professor DIPEOLU has supervised 9 students as major supervisor and 7 as co-supervisor. I'm sure many of them are here with us today. Another 6 as major and 2 as co-supervisor are at various stages of their PhD. Professor DIPEOLU is a member of the following academic associations: Nigerian Association of Agricultural Economics, Nigerian Field Society, Organic Agriculture in Tertiary Institutions in Nigeria, and Farm Management Association of Nigeria. Professor DIPEOLU has participated in several research and intervention projects at local and international levels, and has served as external examiner at the undergraduate level in the following departments in some universities: Department of Economics, Lagos State University; Department of Agric Economics, University of Ibadan; Department of Economics and Farm Management, Olabisi Onabanjo University, Ayetoro. Department of Agricultural Economics and Extension, Landmark University in Umuaro. Professor DIPEOLU has served as external examiner at the postgraduate level and has examined PhD students at various times in the following universities: University of Ibadan in Ibadan, Oyo Obafemi Awolowo University, Ile-Ife, Federal University of Technology, Akure, University of KwaZulu-Natal, Durban in South Africa, Northwest University, Mafinki Campus, South Africa, Njala University, Freetown in Sierra Leone, and Landmark University, Umuaro. He has also assessed colleagues for leadership and professorial position in the following universities and institutions: University of Ibadan, Ladoke Akintola University of Technology, Ogbomoso, Nigerian Institute of Social and Economic Research in Ibadan, and the University of Ghana. Furthermore, he has been invited on several occasions by the National University Commission to lead or be a member of accreditation teams to the following universities: Adamawa State University, Mubi in Adamawa State, Ekiti State University, Ado Ekiti, Obafemi Awolowo University, Ile-Ife, University of Ilorin, Federal University of Agriculture, Makurdi, the National Open University, Cardinal Studies Center, Federal University, Dutse in Jigawa State, and Ladoke Akintola University of Technology, Ogbomoso in Oyo State. In the same vein, Professor DIPEOLU has participated and served as resource person in a number of extra academic workshops. At the community level in the university, he has served on a number of fronts, and these include Assistant Chaplain, University Chapel of Grace till 2019, Member and Alternate Chairman, Board of Directors, FUNAAB Microfinance Bank, 2012 to 2020, Acting Chairman, Board of Directors, FUNAAB Microfinance Bank, May 2017 to May 2018. He was at a point Secretary ASU, 1985 to 1987. Professor DIPEOLU was also the Vice Chairman ASU till 2000, President and also President Cooperative Thrift and Credit Society, 1998 to July 2016. Professor DIPEOLU is happily married to our own Professor Morenike DIPEOLU. And they are blessed with a wonderful boy, Oluwapamilerin Ayo. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Vice Chancellor, Professor Felix Kolawole Salako, it is my pleasure to invite Professor Adewale Oladapo DIPEOLU from the Department of Agricultural Economics and Farm Management to present his inaugural lecture titled Food Demand Decisions, Not Only Numerics, but the characteristics. Thank you for your attention, and God bless us.
The acting Vice Chancellor. The Deputy Vice Chancellor Academic, Deputy Vice Chancellor Development, the Registrar, the Bossa, the University Librarian, the Chairman Committee of Deans and Directors, the Dean College of Agricultural Management and Rural Development, other Deans and Directors here present, the Head Department of Agricultural Economics and Farm Management, other heads of departments, distinguished members of the University Senate, my academic and professional colleagues, members of my family, gentlemen of the print and electronic media, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, great FUNAABites. Permit me to dedicate this lecture to my junior brother, Dr. Olufemi DIPEOLU, who passed on to glory in this year on the 28th of February, and my younger first cousin, Mr. Eniton DIPEOLU, who passed on to glory on the 8th September 2019. He called me Baba Professor from the day I started work as a lecturer. Preamble. I am very much honored to be today's inaugural lecturer. It is the 66th inaugural lecture of the university, the 8th in the College of Agricultural Management and Rural Development, and the 3rd from the Department of Agricultural Economics and Farm Management. Lusk et al. In 2012 noted that much of the research on food and agriculture in the past century has focused on issues related to production efficiency, food supply, and farm profitability. But in recent years, farmers, agribusinesses, policymakers, and academics have increasingly turned their attention away from the farm and toward the food consumer and to issues related to food consumption. I have taken my title from the area of consumer economics. It is food demand decisions, not only the numerics, but the characteristics. This lecture is in 3 parts. The first part will present issues of consumer demand with emphasis on food demand. Second part presents snippets of my research done in the course of my 30+ years in the citadel of learning. I have made contributions to various facets of the agricultural sector. The third part will venture into other issues of academic relevance. Consumer economics is a branch of economics concerned with analysis of consumption behavior in households and other economic units. It sometimes also encompasses family financial planning and policy analysis. The term largely describes what was most commonly called home economics in the past. Its primary constituency is in the field of consumer theory, which is a branch of microeconomics, which shows how individuals make choices subject to how much income they have available to spend and the prices of goods and services. The issue of choice is how consumers decide among several alternatives, not all of which may be obtained at the same time. Consumer behavior are the actions a person takes in purchasing and using products and services, including the mental and social processes that precede and follow these actions. It seeks to answer questions such as, why people choose one product or brand over another, how they make these choices, and how companies use this knowledge to provide value to consumers. It is the study of how individual consumers, groups, organizations select, buy, use, and dispose ideas, goods, and services to satisfy their needs. It refers to the actions of consumers in the marketplace and the underlying motives of these actions. What is the nature of consumer behavior? Consumer behavior is influenced by a number of factors, including marketing factors, social factors, and cultural factors. It varies from consumer to consumer. It leads to purchase decisions. Consumer behavior is different for different products, and the consumer behavior is not only influenced by the status of the consumer, but it also reflects it. Consumer education. This relates to the imparting knowledge to and developing skills in consumers and making correct choices while buying different commodities. There are 5 important aspects of consumer education. The consumer must make an informed choice. The consumers must use their power to promote value for money, value to people, value to democracy, and value to justice. The consumer must recognize his rights and responsibilities. The consumer must be wise in decision making, and the consumer must be aware of the available avenue of consumer complaint and redress and learn to use them for his benefit. In the final analysis, consumer education must motivate consumers to participate proactively in the decision-making process, especially those that affect their day-to-day lives. Consumer education is living and sharing. It must include both the individual concerns of the consumer and the shared concerns of society at large. Consumer education must awaken the consumer eye. The consumer eye concept means that an informed consumer looks at a product critically and analytically, first from his own point of view as an individual consumer, then with the interest of the community at large. The analysis of product is done on several levels like health, economics, product safety, environmental considerations, and social costs. There are 5 pillars of the consumer movement. The consumer movement is people who care about others and about themselves. Consumers must be conservers, protecting and preserving the earth. Human rights are central to consumer movement, especially the right of people to have their basic needs met. Consumers can help to build fair, rational, and just societies. Consumers can use their collective power to protect their interests and to fight those forces that threaten them. Consumer purchase decision consists of stages a buyer passes through in making choices about products and services to buy. These stages are problem recognition, information search, alternative evaluation, purchase decision, purchase, and post-purchase behavior. Consumer demand theory is largely centered on the study and analysis of the utility generated from the satisfaction of wants and needs. The key principles of consumer demand theory is the law of diminishing marginal utility, which explains the law of demand and the negative slope of the demand curve. It is defined as the willingness and ability of consumers to purchase a quantity of goods and services at a given price in a given period of time or at a given point in time. Potential consumers decide how much of a good or service to buy based on its price and many other factors. Although many factors influence demand, economists usually concentrate on how price affects the quantity demanded. This is the figure that shows you the factors affecting consumer demand. What is the characteristics demand theory? In 1971, Lancaster proposed an alternative theoretical approach based on the principle that all goods possess characteristics or attributes that are demanded by consumers and not the goods themselves. Consumers do not demand food in itself, but rather the nutrients and flavors in the food. Lancaster stated that traditional analysis cannot predict how demand will be affected by a specified change in one or more properties of a good, or how a new good fits into preference patterns over existing goods. Moreover, changes in the attributes of a good imply a new preference pattern. According to him, consequently, we must throw away any information derived from observing behavior in the previous situation and begin again from scratch. In the Lancaster model of consumer demand, the concept of attributes enters into the demand functions. Food demand decisions. Food security, a major consideration in the world today, exists when all people always have physical, social, and economic access to sufficient, safe, and nutritious food to meet their dietary needs and food preferences for an active and healthy life. A healthy and nutritionally well-fed population is indispensable for economic growth and development. According to Menon et al. 2004, nutritional status affects capacity to learn, which in turn determines productivity and economic growth. As the world agricultural system moves ever closer to the market-based economy, providers of agricultural commodities have become increasingly attentive to specific consumer demand. The principal determinants of successful farming, which used to be yield and production efficiency, have been complemented by the quality of the food. Today's consumer expects food to have visual appeal, good flavor, to be of good nutritional quality, to be free from toxins, to be properly handled, and must be prevented from exposure to environmental contaminants, among other quality indicators. In the developed countries, governments have been put under pressure to create and strengthen food laws to give protection to consumers, to ensure adequate and safe food supplies. Concerns about food adequacy, including how it is being produced, processed, and sold in the market, are being replaced by concerns about food safety. In Nigeria, the rapidly increasing national population makes Nigeria a big market for both locally produced and imported foods. There is therefore enormous responsibility on stakeholders in the food supply chain to ensure that food to be consumed is safe, wholesome, and nutritious, and is purchased at affordable prices. Indeed, Dr. Margaret Chan, the former director of the World Health Organization, said, governments need to give food safety just as much attention as they devote to the quality and safety of pharmaceutical products. Not everyone needs to take medicine every day, but all people need food each and every day. The organic alternative. In recent years, organic farming has become increasingly viable alternative for many farmers in various continents, including Africa, because of the harmful effects of the use of agrochemicals and inorganic fertilizers. Many supermarkets abroad now sell certified organic produce. According to TENT 1999, potential undesirable residues in foods span a broad range, from natural and environmental contaminants to agrochemicals, veterinary drugs, growth promoters, packaging components, and many more. DIPEOLU 2004 categorized various studies that investigated the presence of antibiotic residues in meat sold in urban markets for human consumption, and reported that the residues present in the meat were above what World Health Organization recommended maximum residue limits. Consumer attitudes towards safety result from differences in each country's baseline food safety risks from internationally imported food, access to an extent and nature of information about food safety, risk levels and related topics, trust in the different sources of information, and experience with major food safety incidents. Individuals make rational decisions about health behavior when they are aware of the associated health problems, have some knowledge concerning these problems, and have some judgment as to the level of the risk involved in not changing their behavior. This means that the consumer's perceptions and beliefs will determine their willingness to change. In order to change, people have to perceive that their current behavior endangers their health and that taking action has a strong likelihood of reducing their risk. My research, I present in this lecture snippets in street food safety, in customer satisfaction, economics of nutrition, food information, consumer issues in organic agriculture, agricultural production, health economics, environmental issues, and international trade. Economics of food safety. In 2007, we studied the supply side of a street food business and observed that even though the number of street food stands had increased over the years in Nigeria, little had been documented about their operations. We found that street food vending in Nigeria provided a cheap source of nutritious food away from home. We also noted that it is a profitable enterprise which could serve as primary occupation to earn a living and would also generate employment. The demand side of the street foods. Our study on the willingness to pay for street food safety in Ogun State, Nigeria, noted that bookers are still very relevant and are visited by both the rich and the poor, particularly in the urban centers. Age, education, safety consciousness were among the factors that affected the attitude of consumers to pay extra for food safety. In the case of age and income, it would seem that these factors bestow a high sense of valuation of life, wanting to stay alive rather than dying as a result of consuming unsafe food. Education also had a positive relation, perhaps because educated people are informed about food safety and poisoning hazards, and thus should be willing to pay a premium for safer foods. In a similar study in 2012, we estimated consumers' willingness to pay for safe street foods using different approaches to determine factors affecting willingness to pay for safe street foods. The study confirmed that street foods have become important aspects of the food bundle of the average Nigerian. However, consumers' consciousness of the safety of these foods at that time was still low. In contrast to the earlier study, some of the respondents did not perceive any danger in the consumption of these foods. To this extent, some consumers offered to pay very low amount to ensure food safety. The study confirmed earlier results that income and education are the main important variables that affect consumers' willingness to pay for safe street foods. It was also demonstrated that different approaches can be used to estimate willingness to pay, provided the methods and the data are handled with caution. For vendors, to establish safe street food canteens, they can utilize WTP figures, which range from 12.3% to 7.1% markup from different approaches of the contingent calculation methods estimated in this study to project the expected income vis-a-vis prevailing prices and patronage. In another study, to determine the awareness of consumers and willingness to pay for the safety of kilishi, ready-to-eat dried meat, we found that most of the consumers were quite aware of the potential food safety problems posed by kilishi and were willing to pay some amount extra to ensure safety. This study also confirmed that education and income were major factors affecting willingness to pay. Customer satisfaction. In 2014, we assessed the factors affecting customer satisfaction and its effects on repurchase intention at selected fast food restaurants in Ibadan metropolis, Nigeria. The respondent satisfaction level towards FFRs were assessed by the Customer Satisfaction Index. Regression analyses were also used to identify relationship between service quality dimensions of tangibility, reliability, responsiveness, assurance, empathy, and customer satisfaction. The study concluded that customer satisfaction with services of the fast food restaurants increased with increase in customers' perception of the tangibility dimension of the service quality. We examined the calorie intake status and its associated determinants among farm households members in the local government of Ogun State, Nigeria. The study revealed that there was inadequate food calorie intake among younger household members, with male and female preschool children being the worst hit. We also found that calorie intake of the male household members was higher than that of their female counterparts across all age groups. Factors affecting the calorie intake of household members included household monthly income and farm size. Food information. We looked at types of food informations that homemakers in Abeokuta used in purchasing packaged foods and the factors affecting such usage. The most commonly considered food label information was the NAFDAC number, followed by the expiry dates, the brand name, the country of manufacture, and nutritional facts. These results are attestations to the positive attitudes towards food safety. The reasons for considering food label on packages included past foodborne illnesses and the need for health. The study also found that education and occupation were among key factors that influenced the label use. Organic agriculture. Organic agriculture was introduced to me by a dear friend, Adewale Oladapo, who through his spirited efforts started the Organic Agriculture Project for tertiary institutions in Nigeria, which has evolved into a duly registered organization, Organic Agricultural Professions in Tertiary Institutions in Nigeria. What a number of economists in FUNAAB found out was that there was consumer awareness of organic agriculture, particularly vegetables, due to the interest shown by consumers in food safety issues involving real or perceived quality risks. Logic regression indicated that education positively influenced the consumer willingness to pay for organic agriculture. Agriculture in the hands of small-scale farmers. The agricultural sector had been dominated by small-scale farmers who produce over 90% of the total food of the country. The low production levels are partly the consequence of the progressive decrease in labor availability in the agricultural subsector of the rural areas arising from rural-urban migration. According to Oberai 1981, confirmed by Shitu 2011, the major pressures that pushed migrants towards the urban centers were the low incomes, high unemployment, and underemployment in agriculture. We found that the pattern of rural out-migration has reduced in recent times, particularly because of the inflow of domestic remittances, which reduces the poverty level of rural households. Agricultural production economics. I like Olaide and Hedi's manner of explaining the objectives of production economics to a first timer. There are four main objectives of agricultural production economics. The first is to determine and outline those conditions which give optimum use of resources in the production of crops and livestock. Number two, determine the extent to which the existing use of resources deviates from what is considered optimum use level. Three, analyze the forces which condition production patterns and resource use in relation to existing opportunities. And four, explain the means and methods adoptable in moving from the existing level to the optimum use of farm resources. The first time out, we looked at the Toyek irrigation project in Lagos under the auspices of the Ogun River Basin Development Authority, which had lowland rice as its commodity, to determine if the project had achieved its aims. Using simple linear regression and gross margin analysis, the study found that farmers were not economically efficient in their use of resources, and they had low gross margins. Technology and labor use. In order to determine the effect of technology on labor use in small-scale cassava and maize farms, DIPEOLU and Akitola 2000 categorized farms into low and high technology farms. With the use of production function analysis, we found that farming labor time among users of new technology ranged from 1.75 man days in fertilizer operations, 23 man days in weeding operations. There was a neutral shift in production with the increased use of technology. The intercept time was higher by 34.2% for high technology users, implying a higher value of output per unit of inputs used. AMREC farmers. Also in 2000, we utilized the linear programming model to develop optimal farm plans for food crop farmers in FUNAAB model villages in Ogun State. The study found that farm sizes range from 1.03 hectares in Ilewo-Orile to 2.67 hectares in Jemofadipe. The operating expenses varied from 13,000 plus in Ilewo-Orile to 52,000 plus at Ajura. Operating expenses was the most limiting factor in all the villages. The study noted that despite the positive roles for the Agricultural Media Resources and Extension Center in the farming activities of the villages, the farmers were not operating at the optimum level. It was recommended that optimum farm plans be derived after major extension efforts in order to estimate incremental levels of attainment. Rice and disease burden. Years down the line, we carried out another study on lowland rice, but this time looking at the effect of disease burden on technical efficiency among the rice farming households in north-central Nigeria. Amongst 2000, and other authors had found that mosquito prevalence was high in rice fields. Incidence of episodes of malaria are likely among rice farming communities and households. Common diseases prevent people from putting in their maximum labor effort into farm production. The study sought to estimate the economic burden due to diseases through the cost of illnesses, COI, among rice farming households. We found that the rice farming households incur substantial cost of illness, 12,000 plus, and an average household lost about 17 days due to illnesses during the rice production cycle. Malaria was perceived to be the most frequently occurring disease in the study area. Comparing the disease burden of a lowland ecology to the upland rice ecology in southwest Nigeria, we found that more days were generally lost due to malaria in the lowland areas than in upland areas. The COI represented 6.1% of the net income from rice farming in the upland zone, while in the lowland zone, the COI represented 4.7% of the net income. We recommended an improvement in healthcare delivery in rice farming communities through construction of more clinics. In the related study, we estimated the economic cost of malaria and determined production and malaria-related factors affecting farm revenue. Farm size, hired labor, combined malaria treatment, and days lost to malaria attack were factors affecting farm revenue. The study recommended priority attention to the rural areas in malaria control program, improvement in healthcare delivery system, production of further rice. We also examined the inefficiencies among farmers producing of further rice in Ogun State. The rice had gained more prominence in the last decade, possibly due to its good taste and natural flavor, higher nutritive value compared to polished rice, higher fiber content and health considerations. Inefficiency in rice production had been identified as one of the factors contributing to low productivity in agricultural production in Nigeria. The presence of shortfalls in efficiency meant that output can be increased without the need for new technology. This study was thus carried out with the objectives of determining the productivity of further rice farmers. The production function estimations revealed a return to scale value of 1.209, which meant that further rice farmers were operating in stage 1 of the production surface, that more production resources could be employed to maximize benefits. The means of technical efficiency, allocative efficiency, and economic efficiency values were 0.73, 0.93, and 0.67 respectively. One of the crucial issues highlighted by this study was that labor was the most significant cost item in the rice farming enterprise, and the reduction in the workdays expended could turn around the fortune of the enterprise positively, especially the work hours used in bed caring, planting, and harvesting the farms. We return to the issue of rice in 2016 because demand for rice had been increasing at a much faster rate than domestic production, and the volume of domestic rice production had been unable to bridge the demand and supply gap. We studied the technical efficiencies and technology of rice production across ecologies. The result revealed a mean economic efficiency of 0.64, 0.87, and 0.76 respectively for deep water, upland, and lowland ecologies. Measures of competitiveness showed that rice production was profitable in all 3 ecologies. The stochastic meta-frontier analysis revealed that farmers require 28.3%, 25.8%, and 10.4% increase in rice output for the 3 ecologies to be able to produce at the meta-frontier. The stochastic cost function indicated that the price of fertilizer, labor wage, and rent on land cultivated affected the total cost of rice production in upland and deep-water ecologies, respectively. Health economics again, an area which fascinated me early in my career at the intermediate level was health economics, perhaps because my wife was in the veterinary profession. Indeed, years before then, I had thought we could do research together and almost changed my research focus to livestock economics. We studied the incidence and prevalence of a number of disease conditions in animals and humans, as well as the latter's attitudes and responses to health. Tests performed to see the influence of season on the incidence of fasciitis showed that there were no significant differences between the seasons. We also examined data to see if there were any consistent seasonal patterns, and we found none. We evaluated the structure, conduct, and performance of the sheep and goat marketing in 4 markets in 4 agricultural zones of Ogun State. The study found that retailers consisted of both men and women in the economic active age. Animals were obtained from the northern parts of the country. The market concentration ratio was lowest in Gufanti market with a coefficient of 0.42, showing that there was much competition among the retailers. Marketing margin ranged from 277 naira per head of animal in Gufanti market to 455 naira per head in Imowo market. Fish farming. We applied the Stochastic frontier production analysis to estimate technical efficiency, allocative efficiency, and economic efficiency among fish farmers in Ogun State. The results revealed that fish farming was economically efficient, ranging between 55% and 84%. On the basis of findings, policy was suggested to be directed towards the encouragement of entrepreneurs in fish farming in the state by providing credit facilities, public enlightenment programs, and the provision of social amenities like feeder roads and pipe-borne water. Permit me to take my walking stick. We also compared the efficiency of concrete and earthen port systems in the state. Findings revealed an average of 76% in concrete port systems, while the earthen port system is as high as 84% economic efficiency level. We found that the quantity of feed, labor, fingerlings, and other materials were significant factors in earthen ponds. Environmental issues. With a kind invitation of Latif Sonny, I was drawn into a project which aimed at improving the livelihoods of smallholder cassava farmers through better access to growth markets. I was charged with work package 1, which overall objective was to assess the impact of climate change on cassava value chains. And then my student, Ms. O.R. Adams, was recruited to study the impact of climatic changes on the cassava value chain and the smoothing methods to mitigate effects. Arising from this, we found that different adaptation strategies were adopted by processors in combating negative effects of climate variability in order to maintain and or improve their livelihoods. I got to manage the walking stick and my remote. Don't worry. These strategies included diversifying into other non-processing activities, changing processing time, storing produce, diversifying into processing of other products. We employed the multivariate probit model to determine the factors influencing processors' choice of adaptation strategy. The result of the model revealed that family size, access to extension contact, educational level, and marital status were crucial factors that shaped the processor's decisions to adopt adaptation strategies. International trade. We delved into issues of international trade to critically examine the effects of foreign direct investment on the agricultural sector. The study spend of FDI into the agricultural sector in Nigeria, estimated the agricultural productivity of farmers in Nigeria, and attempted to determine the factors that influence agricultural productivity in Nigeria. The study concluded that agricultural productivity in Nigeria will be boosted by factors so that the exchange rate of a dollar for a naira, banks' interest rate, the GDP, as well as the FDI inflow into the agricultural sector. Mr. Vice Chancellor, I have also been involved in research projects and consultancy. In 1999, I was invited by two colleagues who had been my very good students in their undergraduate days, Latif Soni and Adewale Adebayo, to join a team as a collaborating social science, headed by the then Dr. Shola Ewale, in a Department for International Development sponsored study on the commercialization of traditional foods and sustainable rural livelihoods. Idris Ayinde later joined the group. This study dovetailed into another related study sponsored by the European Union on the development of small and medium-scale enterprises for producing cassava-based products to meet urban demand in West Africa. The Fufu factory, which has been updated, was one output which the team contributed to the university. Yet again, when the cassava adding value for Africa project hit the stands, I participated in the value chain analysis, scoping studies, gender and diversity audit, skill gap workshop. I was first appointed as monitoring and evaluation advisor to the country manager Nigeria from June 2008 to April 2009, and eventually became the monitoring and evaluation specialist in Nigeria till 2012. For a brief period, I assisted Kola Adebayo in the phase 2 of the cover project, Nigeria, from 2015 to 2016. In July 2011, I was invited as agricultural economist to be part of a sweet potato value chain study in Nigeria. Dr. Gideon Onuma of the Natural Resources Institute in the UK was the head of the team, while Yinka Latunde was a food technologist on the team. Our report gave rise to a bigger project, the Sweet Potato for Health and Wealth project in Nigeria, which was abandoned midway because the then Minister of Agriculture, Dr. Adishno, was no longer the minister. I was the team leader of the diversified product value chain of the project from 2013 to 2015. At about that time, I was also invited by Chris Adinayo, a trade consultant based in Brussels, to head the Nigerian team of the ACP EU-funded enhancing of capacities on international agriculture agreements for development of regional agriculture and food markets, which took place simultaneously in Ghana, Liberia, and Sierra Leone, and in the West African sub-region till 2017. The overall objective of the project was to contribute to capacity building on international agricultural trade agreements in developing the agricultural sector in the region. I have had stints on various other projects. This includes the AAU MRCI Partnership for Regional Food Developers Initiative and the Work and Learn Program for developing entrepreneurship, organic agriculture in Nigeria. Conclusions. Food demand decisions will certainly continue to be affected by the prices and income levels of consumers. But the attributes of the food items will also be taken into consideration, particularly among the educated and particularly in the light of an emerging health-savvy population. As shown from our research, socioeconomic and demographic factors also play important roles in the demand for food commodities. The level of hygiene and hence the safety of the food sold in the informal sector is questionable, but some consumers are willing to pay a premium for the safety of street foods. At the period of undertaking some of these studies, the Nigerian laws aimed at sanitizing the street food sector were grossly outdated. These laws fail to state how often the health officer must inspect the premises of sale of food and the food. They also fail to describe in explicit terms the levels of cleanliness expected at regulated premises. The penalties attached to violations of the clauses need to be reviewed. Recommendations. There is documented situation analysis report of the food safety system in Nigeria. One would love to see the implementation of the conclusions in that report. NAFDAC and the Consumer Protection Council should intensify their efforts to ensure that food sold in public spaces or even in supermarkets receive due certification before circulation into the market, so as to reduce substandard and expired products being sold. Continuous inspection and enforcement of relevant laws are needed. NAFDAC should extend its tentacles to the informal food markets to monitor and ensure adequacy in simple hygiene rules. True, the health inspectors move from place to place, but the levels of enforceability is in doubt. Vendors should be encouraged to prepare foods in a more hygienic environment and with better facilities which may ensure safety. This effort must be or may be preceded by a well-organized public food safety enlightenment program for consumers and producers in order to raise awareness levels among them. Traceability structures to be put in place so that if there is a need for recall, it becomes fairly easy. Food labeling regulations should be taken much more seriously to prevent frivolous claims. Claims with no scientific backing should not be allowed because they will mislead users. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, I want to go into my experience on campus. Half my life in the campus, my wishes. This year is my 37th year in the university. Having been a part of the Federal University of Technology from 1984, which metamorphosed into the present university. Given that I grew up in 2.5 university campuses, University of Ibadan, University of Ife, Ibadan campus, which is now the premise of the Polytechnic Ibadan, and the University of Ife, now Bafemi Awolowo University, I had high expectations of my role among peers in the development of this university. I doff my hat to all my colleagues for their good work, but I wish they would act more in loco parentis to students. I have found it significant to make student business my business. And I can say with all pride that I'm revered among so many of my students locally and worldwide. Without any embarrassment, I have paid good attention to the Man of War Club, the Boys Brigade, Enactus, ISEC, NAS, and ECOSA, to mention a few. At the onset of the agricultural dimension of this university, we thought we were going to train employers of labor in the agricultural sector. I thought each of us pioneer staff would have been given a chance to study the land grant models of agricultural universities to have a good idea of how to train employers of labor. Suffice to say, that the university was meant to be a small university, and I thought that we could inculcate the entrepreneurial spirit in our students right from the start of their programs. Teach some theory in class, give each student a farmland with which he practices what he has been taught, with a farm bursary which we have been giving him at the beginning of the session, and grade him on his productivity on the farm. Perhaps I'm a dreamer, but that I would have loved to see. One other thing that I would have thought we could do as researchers was smart research to society's demands. We must recognize that the private sector will only give funds when they know that the outputs will benefit them. Our research and development efforts must be tailored more than ever to provide the impetus for improvements among small and medium enterprises. It should not all be research for promotion alone. Community service. I have had the pleasure of participating in many phases of the university through the kindness of various vice chancellors. I worked UNAB Consult as its director for 5 years, worked briefly as acting program leader in IFSERA, and as director in the Center for Entrepreneurial Studies. I served as the president of the UNAB Multipurpose Society for a total of 18 years. I thank the members for that amount of confidence reposed in me. It was that same avenue that gave me the opportunity to be on the board of directors of the UNAB Microfinance Bank, an experience that was both exciting and revealing. Acknowledgements. First, I must acknowledge the Most High God. My early days, high school to PhD, were marked with a carefreeness that would have marred my life if he had not made plans for me. Jeremiah 29 verse 11 says, "For I know the plans that I have for you, declares the Lord, plans for well-being and not for calamity, in order to give you a future and a hope." I must thank my late parents, Mr. Jonathan Olusegun DIPEOLU of Ekejeun, Abeokuta, and Mrs. Kulana Ashabi DIPEOLU near Koya of the Rademore Ruin House in Ikorodu. They gave my siblings and I good education. I thank some of my parents' friends, Dr. Shegun Ochoba, Dr. FBA Koka, Mr. F.O. Aramide, Professor Wole Soyinka, and Mrs. Yewande Ekundayo Adedeji. They kept us all on our toes. I, in particular, because I was more or less an identical twin to my dad. I thank my uncles and my aunties. My late uncle, Major N.L. DIPEOLU, my aunt, Mrs. Shomefun, my younger uncle, Mr. Olumiwe DIPEOLU, and his wife, Eniola, and my mom's cousin, Mrs. Okunjobi. My siblings and their spouses, Ambassador Dr. Adeyemi and Barrister Mrs. Omowale DIPEOLU, Dr. Bulahon and Barrister Mrs. Omotayo Alibalogun, Dr. Lufemi and Mrs. Nokwazi DIPEOLU, Pharmacist Andrew and Dr. Mrs. Olaperi Agadi. My in-laws, my late father-in-law, Alhaji Chief Olaitan Sumola, my mother-in-law, Alhaji Chief Muyibat Olufadebi Sumola, Dr. and Mrs. Funlade Sumola, Professor and Mrs. Benga Sumola, Dr. Bolanle Abudu, Pastor and Mrs. Nira Odukomaya, now Paul, Mr. Babade and Mrs. Olusoji Olaleye. My cousins, Mrs. Toyin Kwasima, Justice Musumola DIPEOLU, the Honorary Chief Judge of Ogun State, Larry Anibidun Towe, Professor Fumi Bameke, Captain Deji Andulina DIPEOLU, and others. I acknowledge my alma mater, Government College Ibadan. Government College Ibadan, Old Boys Association 68 said, Government College by Old Boys Association National Executive, and this year will be a Ibadan branch. Sorry, Abeokuta branch. I also acknowledge the University of Ife, now Bafumi University, and I remember at this time, and I acknowledge him, Professor Mark Fabro-Fubayo, who gave me the impetus to be a lecturer. I also acknowledge my class, Unife Economic class of 79. I made a lot of friends at Unife during my undergraduate days. They include Ambassador Ayo Olukoni, Dr. Olufemi Ogunlusi, Professor Biodun Onilude, His Royal Majesty Obadokun Abolarin, the Rogun Okela, and Dr. Dokun Adedeji. I acknowledge the University of Ibadan, in particular Department of Agricultural Economics, and my late supervisor, Dr. J. Akintola, and the Department of Economics. I made a lot of friends during my postgraduate days in UI. They include Ni Badegashi, former VC Lautech, Kyle Debangboshe, I had known him since we were kids, Shegun Alegbeleye, B. Daramola, former VC FUNAAB, Yinka Adebayo in UNEP, Chris Onwoka, O.J. Ario, Kyle De Oishiku, former VC Thailand University of Education, Abiodun Soni, Indubisi Ikeoku Nanwokoma of the University of Lagos, Adebayo Adomulano, Victor Okorua, M.A.Y. Raji, Titi Awoyemi, and Yi Togun. In Unife, now Bafumi University, I acknowledge E.O. Idowu and Adeolu Ayonwale. In OOU, I acknowledge Joy Ihonsu. They're all professors or at the peak of their careers. From FUNAAB to FUNAAB, I acknowledge the following: Falake Henshaw, Anu Andayo Akinshete, Moyo Alimi, Toyin Arowolo, Namdi Ezeri, Eno Ibanga, former VC Akwa Ibom State University, Francisca George, Jide Ojo, St. Rufai, Alabadola Osho, Cheju Mafiana, Gani and Ganiyat Olatunde. Gani is the VC OOU University. Tunde and Fumi Idowu. Tunde is now VC Lagos Vision University. Mike Osoje, Ade and Idowu Enikomeyi. Polande Akreduale, with due respect, ma'am. Most of them are at the top of their careers. Students, now my friends, Latif Soni, Idris Ayinde, Kola Debayo, J.J. Atungu, J.I. James, C.G. Chowande, Jacob Olaoye, O.M.O. Idowu, Sami Samwobo, Eniola Fabusoro, A.Cubed Agbola, Festus Adeosun, Sola Adeboale, Adewale Salau, who also shares my birthday, Adewale Oladapo, MF Adekunle, all of whom are now professors. Delia Kimbode, who was my supervisor at all the levels, Bayo Oni, Adeboye Fafiolu, Rita Subayo, all of them are moving up. Others not mentioned above, who were the ASU presidents, Biodun Badmos, OGF Nwogu, and ALA Shotuyo. The 1998 set of FUNAAB, and I must confess that in this university, they are the people making the waves now. But in addition to them, we have Mrs. Bola Ogbodu and Mr. Kunle Awoshika, who instituted an endowment in my name in this university. Mr. Henry Induilo, Mr. Oraeton Adegun, Mr. Ayo Adenaike, Mrs. Olaeton Okechukwu, to mention a few. Suffice to say, I have a very cordial relationship with very many of my former students. Academic mentors, Professor Y. Fabi, Professor Stella Williams, Professor Tio Tayo, Professor E.B. Oteshle, Professor Yele Andeko, Professor and Professor Mrs. S. Afalami, political mentors, Comrade Professor Toye Lorode, Comrade Professor Idowu Awokwetu, Comrade Dr. Dipo Fashino, Comrade Professor Biodun Okunyemi. The Kulamrod family, all my colleagues in Kulamrod. Special mention to the Dean, Professor Iyo Fakoya, Richard Oyeyinka, and all the heads of department who worked with me when I was Dean. Staff in the Dean's office while I was Dean, colleagues in AEFM, particularly the professors Luke Okoje, Bayo Shitu, Olu Ashaolu, Samadewi, Raman Sanusi, and Elijah Obayelu, colleagues in home science management, nutrition and dietetics, and mental management, and toxicology, where I teach. Doctors Delia Kimbode, Wasiu Sanusi, Olusoji Adekoya, Esther Toloronju, Shadi Oke, Sarah Edewo, Agatha Ogbe, Flumila Ogwike, Hope Onubogu, all of whom I supervised at the PhD. All the vice chancellors of this university from its inception, particularly Professor Oluwafemi Balogun and Professor Felix Lako, my family friends, Adebayo and Shola Adebi, Kaode and Funke Shodibare, Adeboye and Lufunke Fafiolu, Oladele and Fumi Oladeji, the Mafianas, the Odedinos, the Lawales, the Adeboyes, the Ademos, and the Shopejus. My late friends and colleagues, Abiodun Lawale, Adeleke Adeboye, Bode Shopeju, Lanre Amosun, Obafemi Ogini, Depo Adedire, Siaka Momo, Olusegun Apantaku, Oluseyi Oluwatosin, Sam Awonorin, and Professor Peter Adebola Okuneyo. May their souls rest in perfect peace. Salvation of my soul. I thank the Chapel of Grace FUNAAB, in particular the chaplain, Professor Christian Ikiobi, his wife, and Professor Bamidele Oluwatosin. I thank also the Full Gospel Businessmen's Fellowship International, and I acknowledge Professor and Dr. Mrs. Sam Luwalano, Dr. and Professor Mrs. Aki Enilaronda, Engineer Mrs. Abiodun Fijabi, Mr. and Mrs. Kolalambo, Dr. and Dr. Mrs. Akin Akinhomi, Mrs. Inka Kokoyi, Mrs. BME Lawal, Pastor, Dr. and Dr. Mrs. Ayo Ajasa, to mention a few. I thank the members of the Kenta chapter and the Kuto Eminent chapter. The Four Square Gospel Church. I acknowledge and thank Reverend and Pastor Mrs. Kyle Ditalabi, Reverend and Pastor Mrs. Ibikunle Nosaya, the congregations of the Rehoboth Chapel in Kenta and the KCA Chapel in Ibarra. I thank so many other people who have influenced me or contributed to my development, my past and present students at all levels. I wish I could mention them all. My darling wife, Renike DIPEOLU, I appreciate her for the love that she has for me and has shown to me these 31 years. I also thank my son, who cannot be here because he's having examinations in the school, Oluwa Sheyi, Oluwa Pamilere Ayo, the wonderful gift from the Lord. I would love that you will sing this song along with me if you can see it. Right? Through all the changing scenes of life. I have a froggy voice, but I will sing it all the same. Will you please sing along with me? Can we please stand up? Through all the changing scenes of life, in trouble and in joy, the praises of my God shall still my heart and tongue employ. Oh, magnify the Lord with me, exalt his name when he is pressed to him. I call him my rescuing. The hosts of God encamp around the dwellings of the just. Deliverance he affords to all who on his so-called trust. Oh, make but try of his love, experience will decide how blessed they are, and only they who in his truth confide. Fear him, ye saints, and you will then have nothing else to fear. Make you his salvation, your delight, your one shall be. I thank you all for your kind attention.
Don't sit down yet. Congratulations, Professor Adewale DIPEOLU. I guess this inaugural will not be completed without addressing him as Uncle Wale. On behalf of the Vice Chancellor, I present this to you, Professor Adewale DIPEOLU, as the 66th inaugural lecturer of the University of Agriculture, Abeokuta. Don't mind it. In our tradition, I would like to present our university product, agricultural product, to the inaugural lecturer. Thank you. Once again, on behalf of the Vice Chancellor, Professor Felix Kolawole Sarako, I would like to thank Professor Adewale Oladapo DIPEOLU for taking us through his inaugural lecture titled Food Demand Decisions, not only the numerics, but the characteristics. I thank everybody that have listened to his lecture, and most, I would also like to extend our thanks to members of his family that are here with us. Professor Morenike DIPEOLU, Alaja Chief MOA Sumola, mother-in-law, Ambassador and Barrister Adeyemi DIPEOLU, brother and sister-in-law, Barrister Omotayo Ali Balogun, sister and president, Customary Court, Abeokuta. Professor Fumi Bameke, cousin. Professor and Mrs. Benga Sumola, brother and sister-in-law. Dr. Jimmy DIPEOLU, cousin and Chief Medical Director, Olukoye Ransom Kuti Hospital, Abeokuta. Barrister Dende DIPEOLU, his cousin. Dr. Olufemi Ogunlusi, close family friend. Mr. and Mrs. Larry Towe, cousin and husband. Among Professor DIPEOLU's guests today are the Honorable Justice Mosumola DIPEOLU, the Chief Judge, Ogun State, who is a cousin to Professor DIPEOLU. Also here with us today is Honorable Justice O.O. Oguntoyibo of the Federal High Court. I would like to recognize the presence of Dr. Adewale Oladapo, Commissioner for Agriculture in Ogun State. I recognize Otumba Samuel DIPEOLU, DIPEOLU Descendants Foundation, Mr. Bumi DIPEOLU, DIPEOLU Descendants Foundation, Professor Victor Okoruira, academic colleague of Professor DIPEOLU from UI, Mr. B.B. Adewale, Secretary, Judicial Service Commission. Ms. M.O. Oladunjoye, Deputy Chief Registrar. Mrs. O.O. Ogundele, Deputy Secretary, Judiciary Service Commission. And we have Mr. A. Ofo, Chief of Staff to the Honorable Chief Judge of Ogun State. Also here with us this evening is retired Professor Emeritus A. Ogumbono. You're all welcome. Still among Professor DIPEOLU's guests, we have members of the Government College Ibadan Old Boys Association. I would like to welcome Senator Femi Okuromu. You're welcome, sir. Senator Dr. Tunji Adelekon, Dr. Tunji Ogunsainde, Dr. Dapo Afoja, Professor Akinshofoluwe, Barrister Kumi Adekunle, Mr. Tunde Okuboyejo, Mr. Akin Orowale, Reverend Yinka Adepoju, Mr. Adebajo Adebiyi, Barrister Obafunsho Ogunkeye, and Mr. Femi Odumosa. Representatives of the religious organizations Professor DIPEOLU belongs to, Full Gospel Businessmen's Fellowship members. We have here with us Dr. Akin Eniolonda. Welcome to FUNAAB, Mr. and Mrs. Biodun Fijabi, Dr. Akin Akinhami, and Pastor Dr. Ayo Ajasa. For Foursquare Gospel Church members, we have Reverend Kayode Talabi, Reverend Ibikunle Onosoya, Mr. Oladipupo, and Mrs. Olanriwaju Ademuiwa, and Pastor Mrs. Roberts. That's right. Also here with us this evening, we have his FUNAAB alumni friends, Dr. Jamiu Adeyemo, Executive Director of Obasanjo Farms, Farmer Ayopo Shomefun, Dr. Adikun Oraitan, Engineer Gbenga Adarin, Dr. R.S. Karim, and Dr. Shiji Adekoya. We recognize Mrs. Toyin Kwasima, cousin to Professor DIPEOLU, you're welcome, and Dr. Bolaon Ali Balogun, his brother-in-law. Other friends that are here and we recognize are Alhaji Shoyoye, Mr. Kainde Akintunde, Mr. Idowu, Dr. Mrs. Omotola Akinmolayan, and Mrs. Shola Lawale, and of course, Mr. Yomide Lawale. Once again, on behalf, have just been reminded that we have some friends, students, and associates of Professor DIPEOLU that we'd like to present him with some gifts. Can we have them in this order, please? His undergraduate students, That's my college. Colamrod, alumni of the University Chapel of Grace, Boys Brigade, and Man O War to present their gifts. Where are they? Undergraduate students of Professor DIPEOLU, or of Uncle Wale. Undergraduate students of Professor DIPEOLU. Chapel is ready, so let us have the alumni of the university's Chapel of Grace. Oh, back this, okay. Can we have Colamrod, please? Colamrod. Man O War. Man O War. This is from the college. Daddy.
On behalf of the members of Manowo, Nigeria, Federal University of Agriculture, we present this to you, sir.
On behalf of Boys Brigade FUNAAB Second Ogukeded Company, we present this to you, sir.
On behalf of the staff in Dean's Office, College of Agricultural Management and Rural Development, we are very pleased to be associated with you as our immediate past Dean, as well as the 66th inaugural lecturer. We pray that God will give you a memorable and flourishing years ahead. Thank you, sir. We are presenting it to you.
We have the undergraduate. Okay, we have supervisees of Professor DIPEOLU make their presentation to him.
Congratulations, sir, on behalf of your supervisees for the session of 19 and 20. We say congratulations to you on this glorious ceremony. Thank you, sir.
For indeed, Uncle Wale is a jolly good fellow. Congratulations, Professor DIPEOLU. Let me, at this point, once again, on behalf of the Vice Chancellor, Professor Felix Kolawole Salako, thank you all for gracing this occasion. God bless us all.
Thank you very much. We are fast coming to the close of the 66th inaugural lecture of this great citadel of learning. But before we conclude, we would like to have a group photograph with the inaugural lecturer just in front here. We would want dignitaries on the side of the table to please join the inaugural lecturer for his photographs. And of course, we would also take other family members. So please, we would like to... Thank you very much. The procedure for exits. Please, would like to inform that the academic procession are to exit the hall through the right exit door. To my right, the right exit door. The academic procession and dignitaries on the high table would exit the hall from that right exit. Specially invited guest of the inaugural lecturer. Specially invited guest of the inaugural lecturer are to exit the hall through the exit B on the left, where we have the security personnel. Specially invited guests of the inaugural lecturer are to exit the auditorium from the B exit. Students are to be seated in the hall for their refreshments. Students are to remain and be seated in the hall for their refreshments. Other academic staff not on procession and non-teaching staff are to exit the hall through the center aisle. Academic staff not on procession and non-teaching staff are to exit the hall through the center aisle. Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the close of the 66th inaugural lecture of this great citadel of learning, Federal University of Agriculture, Abeokuta. May we all rise as we take the FUNAAB anthem to be followed by the national anthem. The FUNAAB anthem. the national anthem. Thank you very much. We will now have the academic procession led by the dignitaries on the high table as they exit the hall from the We appreciate members of the academic procession for their presence here this afternoon. The 66th inaugural lecture of this great citadel of learning. We also appreciate our dignitaries from various fields and walks of life. Students should please remain seated in the hall. Students should please remain seated in the hall. You'll be attended to. Students should please remain seated in the hall. You will be attended to. All students should please remain seated in the hall. You will be attended to.